Hey guys, it's 8:42 on May 31st, 2019. And you're looking out the window at what I consider to be one of the best views in the entire world. This isn't a view that I actually own. This isn't my property per se. It belongs to our family. And I do have this rich blessing to be able to collect my thoughts and look out this window. And I've got a lot of thoughts on my mind, and they're pretty intense. And I figure that people wrestle with these things too. So I might as well share them with you, because I know that there's just a lot of people out there, and everybody thinks about stuff. And this is some of the stuff that I think about. And since it's fresh on my mind, I thought I'd share it with you. The last 2 days have been, 3 days actually, have been filled with news about death and life that have really been profound. That young man Jacob's body was found 2 days ago. He showed up on shore, not too far from where he left shore. And that's a whole creepy thing there. That was almost to the minute that he should show up, based on the temperatures of the water, which I had no idea that that's what happens when somebody drowns. There's literally a like a math equation based on temperature of the water to how long it takes for the body to surface if they don't have a life jacket on. And the person who told me that is actually older. And I wasn't sure if they were telling me something like just kind of creepy because they're older, or if it was actually something that they knew scientifically, because they would have both. Old creepy people, or old creepy information, and very, very accurate medical scientific information. And I'm like, wait, how do you know that it's going to take a couple of days? Why does the water have to warm up? I had never heard of anything like that before, of course. But my experience and knowledge of people who drowned in cold water was like nothing. I know nothing about it. I just know that you just don't ever want to fall through ice. But this wasn't ice. It might as well have been, though. It was only about 20 degrees warmer than ice. Anyway, this is a young man. He was 23 years old. And the people in my family that know Jacob didn't know if it had been a while since they had talked to him, and they didn't know if he was a believer in Jesus or not. And the good news is that the newspaper said that he was known for, at least to the people that he knows now, known for his strong Christian faith, which, that's the best news of all. But that whole thing is really sad. The whole thing has just been, I don't know, learning about what happens to a body when it drowns was kind of creepy. And the fact that he showed up right after that was really, that kind of hung around in my head for a few days thinking about that. And I don't know, then there was this other creepy detail that there was a picture of him entering into the water carrying his kayak. And then there's another picture of him in the water right before the storm hit. So if you look at it from the chronological perspective of him being in the parking lot at 14:35, and then the storm hit at like 5 minutes or 10 minutes after 3. That picture of him, those pictures of him getting in the water and then in the water. Well, what was even creepier about that was that they were taken by a guy who is an avid kayaker who works for the Chicago Tribune. I don't know. It just leads a whole bunch of different questions. But then a friend of mine said, this was the day that the Lord had chosen to end Jacob's life. And we know it is appointed to man once to die, and then after this, the judgment. Now, the most beautiful detail in all of this is that Jacob has been spared the judgment of God because he's a believer in Jesus Christ. So his sojourning time is done. He's up in heaven now with Jesus, which is awesome. But it was kind of creepy deciding to come up north these last few days, and coming up here and looking out over the water before they discovered his body. And and all that stuff. And then I have this woman that I go to visit in a nursing home through the church. I just started visiting with her like in February, so I haven't seen her that many times. But it was unlike any of the other missions I've ever... It's not like she's a mission, but I mean, just ministering things I've ever done before. In that the other widows that I've cared for, I've had a lot more interaction with because they were, they didn't suffer from dementia. I mean, not like this gal did. This lady was really... I only heard her say one word the entire time I've visited with her, and that's no. And that was just when we were feeding her, trying to give her another bite, and she said she didn't. We asked her, do you want this? And she said no. So, I mean, she couldn't even really talk. She was pretty much nonverbal. And the weird thing about visiting with her was that even though she couldn't talk to me, it was far more intimate to visit with her than the other people, because we have dialogues with other people, and that creates a distance between us that was really completely different. So I showed up at the nursing home to visit with her the first time, and I talked to the ladies who had gone to visit her beforehand, and they were like, yeah, this is a hard ministering position to do this. And I mean, it's hard because it's awkward for the person who does the visiting, but she responded very well. She does have she had kind of like a blank look in her face, but what I just did was I queued up my playlist. I have a playlist of hymns I like, and just to be very frank about it, I like that playlist because it has the words to the hymns. So I can sit there and sing and look at the words, because I don't know the words to a lot of the hymns I like. So I just started playing that song list, and I don't sing all that beautifully, but with the phone playing the hymns, it's a cappella hymns, I could sing to her, and she liked it, and I was holding her hand, and I could look at her in the eye when in between looking up the words and stuff, singing the songs and stuff, and she responded beautifully to it. So it's kind of like a baby. It's kind of like caring for a baby. A little baby doesn't offer any objective, and it's a very intimate thing. You're just sitting there like one-on-one. She was so vulnerable. Anyway, so my church is about an hour south of where I'm staying right now. Not up north, but downstate. And so it was pretty impractical to go visit, but I didn't have to go visit very often. But anyway, I knew that it was I have a commitment of time that I do. Like, I'll go every couple of weeks. And anyway, I knew that I was due for another visit. I had come down from up north, and I wanted to squeeze it in to go visit with her before I came back up here again. But I knew that day, it was like Thursday before Memorial Day, and I was like, oh, the traffic's going to be really bad. I don't want to go. But then I thought, I have to go. I just know I have to do this stuff because it's God's will. And so I got, I got everything ready to go up north. And I drove all the way south. And on the way down there, I even called the nursing home to make sure that she was still there. I had some sense that there was something. I didn't have the sense that she had died or anything, but I just had the sense that something different. Like, I just knew, because I was driving all the way south to drive all the way north, and sometimes I'll stay there for like 2 hours. It's not like I just do a 5-minute visit. I like to visit with her when I'm there. I like to spend the time with her. And it just seemed, and the whole time in my head, I'm like fighting back the thoughts of impracticality. But I know that God gives me everything I need, and I didn't need to be worried about traffic or anything. Anyway, I called the nursing home. She was there, and she was fine. So I kept driving, and then I got there. And I had her brought back to her room, and I sat down with her and assumed the position where I sit down on the couch and get her wheelchair all set up, and I start holding her hand, and then I start singing to her, and then all of a sudden I noticed out of the corner of my eye there was a silhouette of a man in the door, and he introduces himself as her son, who I'd never met before, and I was like, oh, hi. And then I was embarrassed, and I was like, well, obviously he doesn't want me hanging out there while he's come to visit his mom. So I gave him my phone number, and I kissed her goodbye, and she smiled at me, and that was nice. And I told him the song I was singing to her. And I left. I got in the car where my little dog Shrimp was waiting for me. And I was like, well, Shrimp, I'm like, we didn't have to wait here very long today. I was only there for like 5 minutes. And I was wondering, I'm like, God, why did you want me to drive all the way down here? It's like, I didn't feel bad that I had like wasted any money or time or anything. I felt like I just wasn't very effective. I was like, well, I didn't get to do anything today. And I just was like, well, God, you know what you're doing. Just, I just trust you, God. Everything, this is all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And I knew that. And so I drove up north. I didn't encounter any traffic, which is very unusual for the Thursday before Memorial Day. And the whole way up, I just listened, like to Jeremy Camp songs and sang really loud. But the whole time my heart was aching over Jacob. And I just couldn't understand why God just had me drive all the way south to drive all the way north again, And then this afternoon I got a text message from Naomi's son that she's gone into hospice, and she's going to die. She's probably dying right now. They said that she won't live another 24 hours. So I don't know. I'm just sitting here looking out the window, watching Christian television. Sometimes the ducks will come swooping in. The way they land on the water is so funny. I swear they're just a bunch of teenagers. The ducks are. They don't know how to land on the water. And then there's that orange glow right behind that tree, and I've been watching the tree get its leaves. And see, God has a purpose here, you guys, and we don't get a chance to really influence it. All we can do is do whatever God asks us to do, which is like pray for people. And God listens to our prayers. He has an order of things. He's not gonna break that order. Like all those prayers for Jacob, after I realized that there is a certain order to what happens when somebody drowns, like the first few days I was praying so hard, and I'm like, God, why aren't you listening? I mean, I was praying so hard. I'm like, God, please let his family find his body. But then I learned that there's like a ratio of how, there's a science to it. God has put this order in his creation on purpose. And, and then seriously to the minute, that's like when his body was found. And I sat there wondering and crying even, like, why did God let Naomi live so long before she died? When she couldn't even talk. And then there was this other lady in the nursing home that's old and wrinkled. The first day I went there, all the widows I've cared for have been outside of nursing homes. I don't really like nursing homes, but what happened to this other lady? Her name was Grace. The first day I showed up, Grace stood up, and she was an old, skinny old lady. She stood up and her drawers fell, and she just soiled her diapers. And it was just so humiliating. Not for her, because, praise God that he doesn't let these people know. Like, they are not afraid. They're not humiliated. They do not have shame, which is a wonderful thing. I noticed that about old people. Like, just about the time they can't control their farts, they don't care if they fart anymore. They're not embarrassed about stuff like that anymore. I think God is so smart to make us age. It makes us humble. It makes us, the humiliation part of aging isn't there, but it's a burden to us younger people who realize that this is where we're heading. Just about the time you have to start caring for seniors that are in that kind of condition, you realize in your 40s and 50s that you can't reverse this aging cycle. Just about the time that you start hitting that aging cycle and you realize that that 20-year-old, 30-year-old body you used to have is not the same anymore. It's about the time you need to start turning your attention towards caring for older parents, helping them as they start getting older, and grandparents, if they're that old, if they're still alive, they're old at that point. And it's God's brilliance to humble us. You know, Paul says that we glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulations works experience, and experience hope, and hope, I don't remember the other one. Tribulation works experience, and experience hope, and patience. Anyway, hope makes us not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts, which is given unto us by the Holy Spirit. If as we get older and we go through these tribulations and we can trust in the Lord, like, just learn that, you know what, we are nothing. We literally are nothing. Jesus says, without me, you can do nothing. If you can really start getting your head wrapped around that, like really understanding what it means to be grafted into the vine, like John 15, you know, he's like, I am the vine. You are the branches. If you abide in my word, you abide in me, and I abide in you, and my Father and I will make our abode with you. And without me, you can do nothing. If you really start understanding that, then you realize, okay, you can't do anything, but at the same time, you don't need to do anything. God tells us that his grace is perfected in us when we are weak. His strength is perfected. You know, his grace is sufficient for us. For in our weakness, his strength is perfected. And Paul says, therefore will I glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. So at the same time that you're discovering that you are fallible, not just fallible, but that you're fallen apartable. You're getting old, and you're not gonna live forever. And the direction that we head in is the same direction that old lady Grace and Naomi are going in. And we just pray that the Lord will, you know, surround us with people that will care for us. And the Lord says, you know, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. And he says, what you reap, you will sow. So, I mean, I'm looking at my time caring for the widows and stuff. I literally look at that as my investment, you know, my retirement security package. Because you can save up all the money in the world, but if you don't have, you know, a track record of loving other people the way you want to be loved, man, that's frightening. So I don't know, just all these thoughts about life and death, you guys. I just thought I'd share these with you and help, you know, have you guys watch Christian television with me. All right, you guys, have a good night.